This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast leading to the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Woo! What up, though, everybody? It's another episode of Podcast Gold. This is Knockouts and 3 Counts. And, hey, man, things might get a little bit savage tonight. If you've been paying attention to any of the promo that you'd see at those fine social media tags down there in the right-hand corner at KO3C Pod, you would have saw we are joined tonight by the savage gentleman himself, Victor Benjamin. How you doing, brother, man?
How's it going? I'm doing well.
Can't complain, man. I like I said, I was doing a little car shopping before I got on here, so I can't complain too much. Corey, how the hell you doing on a Thursday, brother, man?
I'm doing real good, man. Wasn't able to get out on the bike today, but I've been just tearing it up on the new motorcycle all week, so I'm just enjoying the hell out of that, trying to get it in before the end of the season. So, you know, just living life.
Yeah.
It feels good to be able to make some moves, get me my first bike.
See, I got to know my limits. See, I would love to have a bike, but see, I know that me and a bike just wouldn't be a good idea. So I'll just let my buddy have a bike, maybe take a picture by the bike and see we just kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I mean, hey.
There you go. The math checks out.
I mean, you gotta know your checks and balances, bro. You know,
Yeah.
and you know what they say, perception sometimes is reality. So
See, I was lucky enough. I grew up on both 2 wheels and 4 wheels just as much I did on 2 feet. So I got pretty well trained while I was young. So nothing new. It's just a little different having pavement under your feet than gravel or rock, you know. It's a little different, but other than that, man, open roads are fun. It's been a good damn time, that's for sure.
hey, as long as you ain't putting the bike down, dude, you go out there and kill it. I know me, it probably wouldn't be a good idea. Now, a 4-wheeler, I could do it. But for you, I got a lot of questions, number one, because at first, just off of what I saw in the ring, I was already interested to see what was going down with the Savage Gentleman. But then when I learned more about the MMA side as well, man, I'm intrigued. So I guess the first and most obvious question is, I mean, tell me, who is the Savage Gentleman Victor Benjamin for those who don't know?
I was a sport fighter for so long, and, met my wife, had my last pro fight, and then her and I both fully transitioned into wrestling at the time. And I was still using the MMA character, moniker, that whole thing, I was still me, but nobody really knew who I was. So the Savage Gentleman was born, and it ties the 2 worlds together of meeting my wife being with me and at my side at any given moment, and also the fighter, the very classic pugilist of the Savage. So the Savage Gentleman was born, and it embodies everything that I believe in, and which is you owe some ass, but at the same time, you give the respect whenever it's earned.
I
respect that.
I can't argue with that. My question leading in, why the hell Butterfinger, man? What do you got against Snickers? What you got against Paydays? Why Butterfingers?
Well, first off, the real question you should ask is, why not Butterfinger?
All right.
Snickers doesn't have peanut butter. Payday doesn't have peanut butter. Butterfinger has peanut butter.
It does. But why Butterfinger over Reese's then? If we want to do
gotta have the protein, bro.
Why let's bring them head to head. Why are we picking dry peanut butter over wet peanut butter?
It's different. It's a candy bar still. It's like a Reese cup is candy per se. But it's not a bar. It's not something you can actually bite. It has substance. And if you go back
fair
all the way back to the Butterfinger early days, they actually have strong men on the wrappers, and they talk about the sustained energy that Butterfingers provide. So you might see a Butterfinger power-up coming pretty soon.
That is funny. I could definitely imagine them doing that in the beginning of marketing. Yeah, this is our protein candy bar.
Right.
I mean, they're right. Like I said, as soon as he said the peanut butter thing, man, and I got to give you credit. You have got the peanut butter monikers down, my man. Hot damn. Where do you sit and are these all off the dome, or are you thinking of these along the way and like, oh shit, I got to use this one?
So actually, I haven't come up with any of them on my own. It's literally just been people tweeting at me, people responding on Instagram or Facebook, and coming up with a lot of these things on their own, and they stuck. Like I started the peanut butter platoon. That was me. Butterfinger then initiated the Butterfinger Brigade. So the two of us joined forces, but all of the people on Twitter started calling me the General. And then Lance Archer challenged me for my throne, which I didn't know I was really sitting on top of until he challenged me for it. And then I became the Peanut Butter Emperor also.
Well,
I mean,
sure
Emperor takes it to a whole nother level.
Right.
If you're carrying around a glorious belt like that, I'm sure you have to get a lot of questions on it. So responses have to be on the ready.
Always.
The question is, has Butterfinger gotten on the train yet?
Oh, Butterfinger
are they? Hell yeah.
Butterfinger, before the title's inception, Butterfinger was on the train. If you trail back to my Instagram, there's I think it's a Christmas time photo with a beanie on, a sweatshirt on, candy bars. They were just sending me like the normal stuff, that they sent everybody. And then I went down to Florida to do blood sport. And on the way home is whenever I got an email from Butterfinger saying that your crispity crunchity surprise has arrived. Now, at the time, I had no idea what that meant. I just assumed, it was either going to be like a giant Nerf gun, because that was something they were giving out at the time. More clothing, more free candy bars. Nope. That arrived.
That's insane. So they gave you the Butterfinger Championship. So they anointed you the Butterfinger Champion.
Correct. They had that custom made and engraved for me.
Wow. I was actually going to ask if there was any type of worrisome with like a copyright infringement, but you don't have to worry about that because it was
hell no, not when they made it for you.
Exactly.
That's amazing,
dude. That's pretty dope. At that point, now I know why you chose Butterfinger.
Butterfinger chose me more or less.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's a crazy. He's the Butterfinger chosen one. That's the next moniker for you. You're Butterfinger's chosen one.
See? They write themselves.
Now I get it now.
Right.
Well, another point earlier that you had brought up is both you and your wife transitioning from MMA into wrestling and full-time making the transition. What sparked that? What brought your interest, other than, like you said, you wanted to be able to present your character a little bit better to the mass public? What made you guys both decide to make that transition at once?
So, for me, I was always a wrestling fan. Even growing up, even in my early 20s, whenever I was fighting. I loved MMA. I loved fighting. I was a natural athlete. But pro wrestling always had an affinity with me. And I went over a friend's house one night to watch a pay-per-view, and he told me about this company, local company, that was having a tryout. I was like, screw it, I'll go give it a shot. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? And here we are, 5 years later.
I mean, I like it, dude, because I say that because Corey, Corey, full disclosure with us, I've trained and got my purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I fought a few times boxing. Corey, though, is all 100% for the most part MMA. I just took Corey to his first big shows ever. I took him to GCW War Games and All Out that weekend. So that was
Very
the first
nice.
he had gotten to go. So
Those were
like
great shows to pop your cherry.
see,
It was, and I had actually noted on the returning show that I had just as good a time at GCW as I did at AEW. So, props to them. They put on an amazing show. But go on, Kyle.
well, no, my point is with you being more MMA, more MMA centered, where I'm the one that kind of is playing both sides because I've been a wrestling fan since I was 6. Like for him, it's awesome to see guys like you who have crossed over from the MMA side because like I tried to tell him, man, I was like, when I got into doing the show more, I'm like, bro, these guys are getting beat up way worse than you think. And then we went to GCW, and then that was the first thing out of his mouth. You know what I mean? So for you coming from MMA, what was the biggest thing that what was the biggest thing that you noticed was maybe hard for you or, kind of was like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that when you crossed over?
I mean, nothing was really difficult for me. Like I mentioned earlier, like I was a national athlete. Like all of that stuff came to me. I was able to pick everything up very quickly. But the biggest difference, I guess you could say, is the choreography, I guess you could say, behind it. And it's not even necessarily choreography, but it's working together opposed to MMA when you're working against somebody. And you're constantly looking for an opening in MMA. You never know when it's going to come. But wrestling's, and I don't want to say it's one-dimensional, but it leads the same path over and over and over. Whereas MMA, you never really know what you're going to get, even if you know if the guy's a striker or a grappler or a wrestler, et cetera, et cetera. You never really know what you're going to get until you get in there in that cage door closes.
That's a very good point. What up, though? Kyle Hessler, the promoter of Pele Pro, checking us out. What up, brother man?
Oh, hey, I'm going to see you tomorrow, bud.
See there, man. Well, I guess that's as good a time as any, man. Tell me what your thoughts are on Pele Pro and why the hell would you want to pick a fight with a Murderhawk, bro?
Well, we'll start this off nice. Love Pele Pro. I love everything that they're doing, the talent that they bring in. In Texas, I don't think it gets much better than Pele Pro. And 1 second. My cat's eating my new shoes. So can't ever messing up my new shoes. But Pele Pro,
I understand.
Like I know what Kyle's doing. I know what he's going for. He has a great vision, and the way he presents himself and conducts business with all of the talent. It's not just another indie company. He sees it as a bigger company, and that's what I want to be there for. Like I don't want to be at bottom tier companies over and over and over and over and over. Like I want to get to all the notable companies. And right now he's bringing in some of the best talent, like fresh off, the release from WWE. You got a bunch of those guys coming in for this show. Why wouldn't you want to be at Pele Pro at this juncture? They're new, but they're doing everything right. And as far as Lance goes, I didn't pick this fight. Twitter picked this fight.
Damn Twitter.
But listen, I'm going to back it up. I have an army. I have an entire platoon behind me. So if Lance really thinks his peanut butter on tuna is superior to an entire army, he's mistaken.
Sounds like pretty sound logic to me. I can't really argue that sentiment, but we got a comment in the comments off Facebook, a past guest of our show, a guy you might see around GCW soon. Hey, what do I know? But Uncle Chase Burnett, he said that you're one of her favorite teams, meaning you and your wife, Pretty Proper, are one of your favorite teams right now. Loves how their style are different, but work together. Wish there were more intergender teams on that level. So, that's as good a place as any to ask about it. That's a great dynamic for you guys to both be in the business like that, but then to team. What are your thoughts on teaming with your wife how, I mean, tell me about it. I mean, you know where I'm going with it.
Yeah, so we started, actually, I think it was my wife's third match ever, because her first was on Monday Night Raw. She had one match after that, and then we were a tag team. So literally from the time she started, that's how we saw ourselves. We saw ourselves as a package, as a tag team, as a unified front. And it only just recently started picking up, I guess probably like right before COVID. We were doing a lot of stuff intergender-wise with Beyond. And that really helped usher in the pretty proper segue. Her and I have such a unique style and a combination between the two that it's unparalleled to any other tag team, man and woman, man and man, woman and woman, doesn't matter. Ours is unlike anything else in the style that we're bringing, is unique, and we don't want to be the same thing over and over and over. My wife is an elite athlete as well. Why can she not hang? She has fighting background. She has gymnastics background. She's a professional wrestler. She's damn near, if not the best, high flyer in all of women's professional wrestling right now. And I'm pretty damn strong and throw her ass around like a weapon. So it makes a unique dynamic between the two that most people aren't prepared for.
Correct.
That's a pretty bold claim to put that on your wife, that she is one of the best high flyers in the game.
I mean, he ain't lying. We just watched her at NWA Empower.
What do you, in your eyes, what makes her stand out, though?
She's doing everything better than most women right now. She's better on the microphone. She's better in the ring. She's better on the ropes. She is doing everything that she needs to keep excelling. As far as even like with her chain stuff, if you call that her weak point, she's in the ring on the mats grappling with me multiple times a week. She's a student of the game. She watches tons and tons of tapes, and it's not just the new stuff that's on TV right now. It's everything, and that's what sets her apart. She's not trying to be something or someone else. She's being herself.
I mean, like I said, man, I was already a big fan of both of you guys, coming into it. Like I said, when I saw that Pele Pro was putting you on and it was going to be you and Archer, like I said, we just watched NWA Empower. She showed out there. And like I said, man, I just love the fact, like you said, I think to me, the number one thing I see from Lady Frost is, like you said, just the complete package. You said she's got the gymnastics, the MMA, a lot of competitors you get, like, either you got strength or some will be quick, but to be able to do those and bring it all in one, in one package, like I say, you guys are dynamic. There ain't no other way to put it. But let's take it off of wrestling for a quick second. You mentioned your background in MMA, so I thought you'd be just as good as any to ask some of your thoughts on some of these fights coming up, man. Are you going to be checking out the card we got next weekend with Volk and T-City?
I don't know. What company is that?
UFC.
I'm not familiar. I haven't heard about this one.
Nick Diaz is coming back too to fight Robbie Lawler on that card too. I can't believe they're running that all these years later too.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. But if we can go back to like the fights that were just this past weekend also, where people were coming out of retirement that never should.
Agreed.
And
yeah,
a legend is a legend until you start fighting for money. You're no longer fighting for the love, you're fighting for a paycheck. And I don't ever want to say that it's embarrassing, but there's a time to be in the ring and there's a time not to be in the ring. And a legend like Holyfield should never be in the ring at that age. I don't care who or how much money he's making. Props to him. I would take the fight also, if you're paying me that kind of money. But we also know what this sport does to people in their minds. You know, he looked great, looked in incredible shape, and I'm sure he'd be great against someone, you know, his age, his level, his experience, but it's different when you're fighting a younger, more agile person.
And he was on TRT.
Right.
We all know Vitor was on TRT, and here's the thing, and nobody wants to say this, but I'm going to come out and say it. I love Evander Holyfield, but dude, even when he was hitting the pads before the fight, he didn't look good. He was off balance. He was off balance even when he was walking out to the ring. And then the first time he took a shot, it was like, oh shit. That didn't. I don't know. That's just what I saw. Because as soon as he got hit, I'm just like, oh shit, this ain't good.
I know you said you won't call it embarrassing, but that's actually the words literally I described it as on our show last week. It was embarrassing to the legacy that he had built for himself throughout the career of great boxing that he had put on display for the world. That's what the younger generation is going to think about when they see Evander Holyfield is, oh, the dude that got knocked out in the first round.
Right.
Not the guy that beat Tyson, not the guy that did all this work throughout an amazing boxing career. So that's my biggest problem with these guys, especially somebody of Holyfield's age. You're talking 2 years shy of 60. That's completely out of the ball game, in my opinion. Like, realistically, even like the outliers, like we were going to bring up the Yoel Romero making his Bellator debut this weekend. Very excited for that fight. He's even kind of getting to that age limit where we'll see. But somebody as old as Evander, that come on, man.
It's different. Like, so, and I don't want to say like 40 is the new 30, but people are aging less rapidly, and they're sustaining, you know, careers longer in all types of sports, and that's due to science. You know, and like the medical science world and the sports science world, they're prolonging athletes' careers and lives, longevity, and they're feeling better longer. So, I mean, look at Tom Brady. He's still one of the best to do it ever in any sport.
Facts.
And can't argue with that. Doesn't matter what his age is, he's still better than everyone. And that's coming from a Pittsburgh fan. But
that's saying something too, man.
Right, like the numbers don't lie. You know, you can't knock someone based on the city. Like, okay, cool. Patriots, you can say what you want. He went to a whole new team with players he didn't know, a playbook he didn't know, coaches he didn't know, and won.
In his first year.
It's undeniable talent.
That's what's crazy, man.
Right.
You could say
the first year, though, not even like
he won in his first year, so there's not much you can take away. Even for me, somebody that was absolutely dog sick of seeing the Patriots win every year. But you can't take nothing away from Brady. That's for damn sure.
I can't argue that, dude. Like I said, I mean, good is good, and that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Corey, I still don't understand you with us being University of Michigan fans, how you can hate on Brady, but what the fuck? That's a different story.
I'm a consistent underdog fan in professional sports. I may have my outliers in college sports, so I have my feels on that, but in professional sports, I am constantly rooting for underdogs, and that is it is not great because my fascinations with teams will completely change and alter depending on when they finally start to make it to the top and they've been in the playoffs for 3 years. Let me see somebody else make it now. So I'm not a bandwagon fan in the positive light. I'm the bandwagon fan of I want to see teams do good so that we can at least have a competitive league. That's what I like to see.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I always just love to give him shit because the one example he always uses is Brady, but yet we're University of Michigan fans. I mean, hell, I work right down the street from the place.
To be fair, Brady wasn't shit. He was a 6th round pick.
Exactly. That's
fair. Very fair.
Brady is a student of the game and learned under also another legend, you know, Bledsoe. He was one of the greatest to ever do it. He taught Brady. Now, that's not to say that Brady hasn't earned every single thing that he's got, but if you're a 6th round pick, something doesn't add up.
Yeah. Well, that's
total fact. I won't argue that either. And I've always said that. Like, he did not get picked up early in the draft. Go ahead, Corey.
I was just going to say, not to divulge too much into the world of NFL on this interview here, but that's one thing that you see notoriously with consistently good quarterbacks in the league, like Aaron Rodgers and stuff like that, is they do end up playing behind people for a year or two, learning the system that they're going to play under, learning.
And Brady played behind Bledsoe.
It makes a huge difference in the lives of NFL careers, not just immediately throwing them to the wolves in the first year. But I digress.
Well, I mean, hey, that's as good a place as any to ask you this. I mean, so we talked about Brady and football, but as far as as far as wrestling goes, what was it that attracted you to wrestling? Do you have anybody in particular that you like to watch to learn from? Are there anybody whose stuff you like to pick out? Because, I mean, I know for me when I was fighting, I mean, that's one thing, you always did was you try to watch whoever it was you was going to fight.
Right. And I guess whenever I started like really breaking into the fight scene, I was a Shamrock fan, both Shamrocks, Boss Rutan. And, I know Ken has done a lot, in the pro wrestling world. Him and I recently have had some exchanges back and forth. I don't know if that's ever going to come to fruition, but talk about a dream match.
Hell yeah, that's dope.
But as far as wrestling wise, like, growing up, I was a Malenko fan, Ultimate Dragon. Like, those two guys they were different. I mean, I was a Hogan fan, a Warrior fan, the characters, the larger than life personas. But as great as they were, I still don't think they get enough accolades, for as good as they were. I
agree with that 100%.
They weren't the TV guys. So they were the slept on individuals that carried companies and won championships all over the world. But yet they're not. Yes, a casual fan who Ultimo Dragon is, they're going to look at you wide eyed.
100%. Dude, that picture of him with like all the belts when he won, like when the Super J Cup first got big,
right?
Like back in the WCW days, like Corey, we're talking like you had 6 fucking belts on you and the cup,
right?
And you laugh, but I'm saying each one of those belts was like super prestigious too. Yeah. It wasn't like what you see, and this isn't even to dog it out, but it's not like what you see in WWE with like a 205 Live. We're talking about back in the 90s when, dude, like this is over in Japan where that shit, like I said, in Japan, it's just different over there. It's the same. I mean, the best way I can explain it is like what it would have been in Pride. You know what I mean? So now think of that. And he's got each one of those different promotions belt on top of having the belts. He had the WCW belt here in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is huge. And especially like you said, I've watched tons of clips and stuff from Japan wrestling, and man, that is a different level of wrestling, especially back in the old days, man. They used to go all out.
And with Ultimo, he had to go to Japan because they wouldn't let him do his thing in Mexico too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
A lot like he's a luchador, but he had to go to Japan, and get over in Japan because in Mexico, they didn't really give him a chance. He went over and got over in Japan and then went back to Mexico and was an even bigger star because he'd already did his shit in Japan.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm a little bit of a wrestling nerd, so. I feel like we all are, though.
That's one thing that I notice a huge difference. And I pointed this out to you, Kyle, the big difference to me between MMA fans and wrestling fans is the fact that MMA fans are, what have you done for me lately? What have you? Who's next? When are you fighting again? Oh, who cares if you're on a 7-fight win streak? But who's next? What's the next matchup? Where wrestling fans will get to a T in the history of a match that happened 10, 15 years ago, or somebody's career that may even be like an underlying star or stuck out to them in some aspect, and they can just break down their whole career. So that's what I personally enjoy seeing about wrestling fans. It's a huge difference.
So that brings up a good question in of itself. I mean, if you've been watching any of the major companies at this point, there's been so much crossover with MMA and wrestling. I mean, hell, if you watched AEW just on Wednesday, you had Literally, dude, we were just talking about that before we went live. I told Corey, I was like, bro, they had like all of American Top Team out there. You had Arlovsky, you had Paige Van Zant, her husband, Austin Vanderfort. You had Kayla Harrison. I mean, dude, you had a fucking murderer's row in there. Right. And I'm looking at Jericho. I'm like, hey, man, usually I got your back on this one, homie. But if you guys run in there, even with Hager, I got a feeling that it might not go so great.
Yeah, Hager, I don't think Hager got it much, for the guys that were in that ring.
Nah, I mean, hey, man, I give you all the credit in the world that you're trying to do your thing in Bellator and wrestle at the same time. But, dude, there's levels to this shit. And
yeah,
there's levels to this shit, and the guys that you were about to bite the shit with, man, it wasn't going to go very good.
Well, no. I want to pose the question to you that I posed to Kyle before the show, actually, and that's out of JDS and always struggle with the last name
Arlovsky.
Yeah, out of the two, because both of them are, a little past their prime. Arlovsky's still winning fights. JDS at this point already released from his contract. Could you see either one of them? This is, I believe, the second or third time they've made their appearance in some form of a wrestling background.
They've been on there the last few weeks in a row, and they're supposed to do. They announced last night at the big Arthur Ashe show. Yes. They're supposed to be part of a 6-man. That's supposed to go down, or some kind of multi-man tag match.
Okay, so that kind of answers my question anyway. Well, I guess I'll reword it in a different way, because I was going to ask who would make their debut first, but who do you think would do better in a wrestling?
Out of those two, if you go back, because you're the MMA guy, look at Arlovsky. He came out with the fangs. He came out with the different haircuts. He was the body guy. He was the epitome of a showman in MMA at that time.
Yeah.
JDS, he was a great fighter, world-class jiu-jitsu player, but he was boring. Like, he could fight, and that's amazing. And I'm not taking anything away from him, but in this other business, that's not the same thing. Arlovsky,
what did I tell you, Corey?
JDS is kind of like watching paint dry.
I personally love watching people's backstories and stuff like that. So I enjoyed a lot of his interviews throughout the years. So different opinions there.
Right. And like, I'm not saying that, but
as far as being able to sell it every week.
Right.
That was actually, I was going to let you get your point, and then I was going to interject with, I would like to see him, because I feel as though out of the two, he has the much easier to understand English. He, at this age still, like if you look in his last fight, he was 250, 255 with a 6-pack solid,
yes.
and that's full USADA and every, talking somebody of his age coming in incredible shape. That means something. And if he was able to just, bulk up and not have to worry about being as fast and stuff for an MMA world, I feel like his body would definitely fit the wrestling criteria of a perfect big man, I guess you could say.
Oh, for sure.
And then secondly, I feel like even though he hasn't played that role before, it's because he's always been good at portraying who he is as a person, which is just a genuine nice guy.
Right.
Where he could play the baby face or whatever the case be, but we've never seen him try to lean into being a bad guy in any sense of the word. Even like his matches with Kane and stuff like that, when he would get booed and stuff, he was still trying to like be the good guy against a hostile crowd. So that's where I'd be curious to see if he could pull off a bad guy role. I would.
I personally said Arlovsky just because, to me, like you said, to me, he just has that look that when he'd walk especially, you remember when he had his own theme song before they all had to like vet that theme song, the Onward to Victory, dude, have him walk down the ramp to that with the fangs in, dude. It's over with. It's already, you got it. Turn on the red siren light, play the onward to victory song and let him walk down the ramp with the fangs in, and it's over. You don't need nothing else.
Yeah,
and you're bringing in a whole other audience then at that point.
100%. That's why I think AEW is so smart in what they're doing with that stuff.
Very smart.
I feel like they've done a much, to me, like, so everybody knows WWE has always brought in, whoever it is, you go back down the line, take your pick. But I feel like AEW has done a good job, at least with who's been involved. Like, even again, like if you look at Wednesday, you had Trae Young on SmackDown, which was cool. But at the same time, you look on AEW, you had Shaq was involved in a match. Might have looked a little weird when he took through the table, but I never expected to go see Shaq go through a table. You know what I mean? No. Like, and stuff like that, like you said, to me is what's going to bring eyes in. And if you're going to do stuff like that with the MMA angle or whatever they're going to do with it, I mean, you're automatically giving your guys more credibility because they're going to have to fight against people that everybody knows are legitimate certified badasses, even if it's Dan Lambert running his mouth.
They're champions.
Facts.
Multiple time champions. They're not just fighters that came from the UFC, and it's not to knock anyone else, but their pedigree speaks for itself.
I agree 100%. Kayla Harrison's like they're arguing the number one next to Amanda Nunes, and they just can't fight because she's in PFL. So, I mean, that's 100% fact. Like I said, after us being in the building for that in Chicago, man, like I said, it's just cool to see where wrestling's at. And I mean, I guess that's as good a question as any. I mean, for you, what are your thoughts on the state of wrestling right now in 2021? Because, you hear some people saying that we're entering a new era and a new, renaissance because of what everyone's going to be able to do on the indies, or the fact that now there's so many different options, even on the bigger level for people to go. I mean, with your wife getting shot at Impact this week, I saw. Yes. So, I mean, like I said, man, it's as good a time as any to be actually having some options in wrestling. So where do you stand on all that stuff?
Oh, I love it. It's 100% the best time to be a professional wrestler. Because now, with everything going on with WWE and that whole hoopla, that aside, every other major company is working together. It's never happened before. That was, you get the super fights in mixed martial arts is when you would get a Pride versus UFC guy. But UFC bought Pride at the time to make those fights happen for the fans. These are all individually owned companies, and they're all working in unison. But they're also letting their talent work everywhere else. So for a guy like me, who isn't maybe necessarily on the radar of the top companies, like tomorrow night, I'm teaming with TJP against Charlie Haas. Saturday night, I'm wrestling Lance Archer. So I'm still able to wrestle some of the top talent without having to be at those places. And all that's going to do is raise my value and help promote their companies. It's the smartest thing and the best thing that could have ever happened to wrestling.
I couldn't agree more, Corey.
Look at somebody like Moxley. I mean, who
right.
We were at GCW, like Kyle had noted, the night before. We watched him walk out, win the title. Then the very next night, he makes his appearance in AEW. But not only does he make his appearance, AEW actually lets him walk out in a GCW gear, like
right,
with the emblem and everything. So you want to talk about like cross promotion on the biggest level? Like AEW knew for a fact that was going to be their biggest, the biggest night that they've had, if not in their career of the organization, in probably the year for sure, with CM Punk and all the debuts on the night and stuff. And they still allowed him to wear another, what could be viewed as some type of competitor or anything like that gear. No, they completely allowed it as like a cross promotion friendship thing. So that's huge in the world of wrestling from an outsider's perspective.
And even same with the storyline with Omega, having all of the titles across multiple companies.
Yes. Same
thing like Ultimo Dragon. All those titles meant something.
Yeah.
It wasn't some random title from here and there and anywhere in between. They were legitimate titles multiple companies being defended across promotions.
Yep.
And so what would happen is you would see them on arguably on the bigger of the platforms, whichever one that may be at the time, and you'll enjoy the wrestler as a character, and you'll form a fanship of this person, and you'll end up watching them on these other promotions, and next thing you know, you're a fan of the other promotion just because this one wrestler you wanted to follow throughout their road, I guess you could say. So it really does.
And that's
work
what AEW is doing right. They're 100% competition to WWE. WWE is no longer just the top or the flag bearer. AEW is there, and with their partnership with NWA and Impact and New Japan, and Ring of Honor, some of those guys are trickling in right now. That you have as many options as ever before. And like my wife, she's not signed, but she's wrestling for NWA and Impact right now. So with that door being open, they're allowing her to work for both companies.
Like I said, Corey, that's why I was making when we were sitting in the seats, we were sitting with Ryan McKinnell from Busted Open, which if you guys are checking us out, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can check out the episodes with him and Dave LaGreca and everybody else. But my point being, when we were sitting there, I was trying to explain to him why, like, Christian winning the Impact title right before that, why that was such a big deal. Because now that he's taken one of those belts off of Kenny, it's like, oh shit, Kenny really could lose this shit. When at first you would look at that and it's like, oh, why would you have him lose? But now there's a chink in the armor. Like I said, when you got all those belts, Corey, it like I say, it was crazy to see because you haven't seen that in a long time. You don't even see like the Super J Cup type stuff, even in the cruiserweight divisions, because anywhere you look now, other than maybe, I don't know, MLW, there's not really like dedicated. Impact's got the X division, you know what I mean? So it's not like back in the day where you would see, all the titles in the same spot. So like to see that's crazy to see in 2021. But that brings up a part of our show that we haven't gotten to ask for a while because we've been so MMA heavy for a while. So we've got a segment on the show that we like to call Locker Room Etiquette. And we've had everybody from Josh Burns, who you just Josh Briggs, excuse me. I call him Josh Burns, but Josh Briggs that was just on NXT, Congo Kong, Ricky Morton, everybody else give their answers. We've had everything from wash your balls, keep your baby mama out the locker room, wash your gear, all the basic ones and all that. So if you would add anything to the list, what would it be and why?
So etiquette wise,
or even anything that just pisses you off about the locker room or anything like that, like just pet peeves or anything.
One thing I'll never get behind, is whenever I see people drinking before a show or getting high, and it doesn't happen often, but it's few and far between. But it's still, that's the most unprofessional thing that anybody could ever do. You want to go out after? Great. Celebrate. Good night. Awesome. Don't do that. That's not, and I love a promoter that clarifies that. Like, you do not come into my ring intoxicated under any instance. And that's the best thing. And as soon as I hear that, I know I'm in good hands. I know I'm in a decent promotion. But as far as like adding to it, you got to thank everybody. I'm a huge proponent. Like, I will thank every single person because I've been in every single role, leading in, breaking in to where I am now. And a lot of people think they're above that. It's unfortunate because they think once they're wrestling full time, they don't have to do the ring, or they're better than somebody, and they're not, because that was me 5 years ago. I get to a show, I'm going to help you set up. I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to shake every single person's hand on the way out the door. If you have bad blood with someone, it's different, but there's no reason to not give someone the time of day.
I totally respect that, dude. And you know, it's a perfect way, if any, to circle back around to Pele Pro, because like I said, I've been there. I've seen how, you know, Kyle runs shop there, and you know, he's real upfront with what he wants. But I mean, at the same time, that's why you get the product that you're gonna see come September 18th, man. So if before we get out of here, man, I mean, if you've got any last words for Lance Archer, feel free, let him spew, tell him, you know, for anybody that's on the fence on coming to the show or checking it out, you know, let everybody know where they can find it out. But if you've got anything left to say to Mr. Archer, man, I mean, feel free to let it go.
You know, him and I have been having words recently often. He's commenting, he's taking the title. That could be the furthest thing from the truth. This is my title. It was made for me, hand delivered and gift wrapped for me. He'll never touch it. Cool, he was the IWGP champion recently, but he lost it. I just defended this thing last week. I didn't lose. I am flawless in my defense of the Butterfinger Championship. Lance, you're great. You've done a lot. But I am the true peanut butter emperor. It's my kingdom. I'm allowing you to walk in to the door, but just know you're not going home with anything. However, you might go home with a consolation prize. That's a Butterfinger shoved up your ass.
That doesn't sound very fun.
No.
I mean, hey, dude, it sounds like it's about to go down at Pele Pro Cheat Code. I mean, hey, dude, that's not all, because our homie from Detroit, Isaiah Broner, is going to be headed back down there. You've got, I mean, dude, you've got a list full of people. Like he said, Alex Zane, who just got let go from WWE, is going to be on the card. You've got our homie from Shane Taylor Promotions, Khan, is going to be on the card. Hey, you might want to hit that subscribe button, because you just might see Khan and Moses maybe coming to a show near you soon. But I mean, hey, like I said, if you're on the fence about Pele Pro, I'm telling you from experience. I was there when Mike Bennett was shooting his documentary that they did when he first came back out on the indies and stuff. And I'm telling you, dude, the vibe that's there at Pele Pro is something that you're not going to want to miss if you're in the Texas area. Hell, if I didn't have to be at work, I'd be there. So you need to make sure you're there. But I don't know,
Why
man.
are you going to work?
I mean, you know,
Aren't
it's
you
these
getting
things.
sick right now?
What'd you say?
I can hear it in your nasals. You know, like your throat. You're getting sick right now, right?
Oh man, my Crohn's. It's my Crohn's, bro. My Crohn's is getting me. I mean, dang. I just might magically be sick. But
Now that's
I mean,
savage.
I mean, hey, dude. Sometimes it's got to be like that. I mean, and anybody who I work with that hears that, I'm just joking. But hey, man, I appreciate you coming back on. Let's not let this be the last time that we have you on, dude. Like I said, it was our pleasure to have you on. If you have anything else that you want to plug or any social media you want to throw out or anything like that, man, please feel free.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me. It's same handle across the board: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Real Savage Gent. My wife, who just got all of her social medias back finally yesterday after 3 months of agony. She had her Twitter, but some guy in some remote country ended up getting into her accounts. She got those, and it's at Real Lady Frost across the board also. So start following her. She's crazy. I'm a savage. I'm the peanut butter champion. Saturday night, you're going to see a once-in-a-lifetime match that has never been done before. The biggest feud over food. Nobody has ever done this before. So I'm excited.
My man's is hungry. You got to be there. Pele Pro cheat code, and the cheat code might just be a damn Butterfinger where the sun don't shine. That's why you got to hit that subscribe button, buy that pay-per-view, because you don't want to miss the Savage Jet versus the Murderhawk monster, Lance Archer. And until next time, in the in-between time, peace.